Welcome to Shatter.
Help me reach 5,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. She laughed, not the polite kind, not the kind that fills a room softly. It was the sharp, bright laugh of someone testing boundaries. Her head tilted back, her hand brushed his shoulder, and I saw it. The way her eyes held his just a little too long. I stood 10 feet away, holding a half-empty Heineken, pretending to check something on my phone. It was the company's holiday party, the place where everyone pretended to like each other for the sake of optics. I built this agency. Every person in that room owed their salary to the hours I'd lost building it. Yet tonight, it was her stage. Her name was Lauren. She wasn't drunk. That's what made it worse. The guy she was flirting with, Matt, the new creative hire, had been with us for 3 weeks. I'd interviewed him myself. Fresh ideas, a little arrogant, but useful. I didn't realize then that arrogance was contagious. People started noticing. I caught a glance from my operations manager, one of those silent, sympathetic looks. The music from Spotify's corporate playlist filled the silence that stretched between us, but it couldn't cover what everyone saw, my wife's game. I watched her sip her drink, lean in, laugh again. It wasn't cheating, not technically. It was something quieter, a public experiment in disrespect. I didn't react. I smiled, nodded at a few colleagues, moved around the room like nothing happened. She caught my eye once, expecting a flash of anger. I gave her nothing, just silence. That's when she started to lose her rhythm. Later, when introductions circled, Matt said something about the power couple that runs this place. That was my cue. I looked straight at him, calm, steady. "Oh," I said, "she's my ex." The room froze. Lauren's smile cracked. Someone dropped a glass. I shook Matt's hand, still holding that same Heineken, and said, "Good to finally meet you." Then I walked away, slow, deliberate, the kind of walk that doesn't need to hurry. Outside, the December air was clean. I ordered an Uber Black without looking back. By the time the car pulled up, I could still hear the music from inside fading under the noise of my own quiet exit. That night, I didn't lose control. I took it back. I didn't check my phone that night. I didn't need to. By morning, the story had already traveled through every department. People always talk, especially when the silence is louder than the scandal. My office felt different that Monday. Conversations stopped when I walked by. No one mentioned the party, but everyone knew. That's how power shifts, not with shouting, but with restraint. Lauren hadn't come home that night. She sent a text around 2 a.m., a simple "we need to talk." I didn't reply. She was used to getting my attention immediately. For years, I had been the calm one, the fixer, the man who held everything together. But something changed in me the moment I said X. It wasn't a lie. It was a decision. When I arrived at the agency, she was already there. Her desk faced mine, separated by glass walls. She avoided eye contact, pretending to scroll through something on her screen, probably Instagram. It didn't matter. I'd already deleted every photo of us the night before. The clean break wasn't digital. It was psychological. People whispered, but no one dared ask questions. I noticed Matt keeping his distance, suddenly quieter, more cautious. Even he could feel the air change. That's the thing about control. When you take it back, everyone senses it. Around noon, I left the office. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I just walked out, got into my Audi A7, and drove until the city blurred. The silence inside the car was heavy, almost surgical. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about fixing, explaining, or protecting her image. I was just still. She called me 6 times that afternoon. I didn't answer. When I finally looked at my phone, her last message said, "Everyone's asking what's going on." That was the point. I didn't need to explain. The absence of words was explanation enough. That night, Spotify's algorithm played one of our old playlists while I worked alone at home. I let it play. The songs didn't hurt. They just sounded distant, like they belonged to another version of us that no longer existed. By Tuesday, the silence had evolved into something heavier, not just between us, but inside the walls of the agency itself. Every click of a keyboard, every closed-door meeting carried a different weight. I saw it in the way people avoided saying her name, like it was radioactive. Lauren had built her own spotlight in this place, and now it was flickering. She came into my office that morning without knocking. I didn't look up right away. She started talking fast about how things looked bad. about how people misunderstood the joke. Her voice trembled, not from guilt, but from fear of losing control. That was her real panic. Not me, but the perception. I let her talk. Words poured out, apologies mixed with excuses. When she finally stopped, I just said, "We're fine." That was it. No emotion. Just those two words that meant the opposite of what they sounded like. Her face fell, like she'd expected a fight, maybe even a scream. But I gave her the one thing she couldn't process: indifference. After she left, I opened my laptop and watched the engagement stats of our latest campaign. Numbers. Data. Clean, logical, unemotional. It was a relief to look at something that didn't lie. Later that afternoon, I saw Matt leaving her office. He looked pale. I didn't need to guess what conversation had just happened. By evening, the agency group chat had gone silent. No more jokes, no party photos, no chatter. The attention she once fed on was gone. That's the cruel thing about social energy. Once people sense instability, they retreat. At home, I poured myself a drink and sat by the window. The city lights flickered on like nothing had changed. I thought about how easy it was to build an empire of attention, and how fast it could collapse once respect disappears. Before going to bed, I checked LinkedIn for the first time in months. Her relationship status still said married. Mine didn't say anything. The absence spoke louder. I didn't remove her. I just made myself invisible. Sometimes, that's more final than blocking someone. Wednesday started with an email. Subject line: "We need to clarify things." It wasn't from Lauren, it was from HR. Apparently, some employees felt uncomfortable after the party. That's corporate language for gossip turning into liability. I replied with 2 sentences. "Everything is under control. Handle internally." Then I closed my laptop. Lauren avoided my office all morning. I caught a glimpse of her during a client meeting, polished, smiling, pretending. But her eyes were different now. The confidence was gone, replaced by calculation. She was trying to manage optics, not emotions. That's what made us dangerous together once. We both knew how perception worked. The difference now was that I'd stopped performing. Around noon, she finally came to see me. She stood by the door, waiting for me to say something. I didn't. She said, "Are we really doing this in front of everyone?" I looked up and answered, "You already did." Her face tightened, but she didn't cry. Lauren didn't do tears. She did damage control. That afternoon, I scheduled a board meeting for Friday. I didn't tell her what it was about. She'd find out soon enough. I wasn't planning revenge. I was cleaning house. Emotionally, professionally, socially. After work, I left before her, which never happened before. Usually, she stayed late just to show commitment. Now she was staying because she couldn't stand going home alone. I saw her car still in the lot when I pulled out. The reflection of my Audi's taillights cut across her windshield. For a second, I saw her hand pressed against the steering wheel, motionless. That night, I didn't turn on any music. Spotify sat silent on my phone screen. I didn't need a soundtrack. The quiet was enough. Before sleeping, I checked Instagram. She had posted a story, an old photo of us, smiling at some award ceremony. The caption said, "Partnerships evolve." I didn't react. I didn't unfollow. I just deleted my entire feed. By morning, it would be gone. Every trace of our shared narrative erased with a single, silent move. By Thursday, she started realizing that silence has gravity. It pulls everything toward it: attention, curiosity, fear. At the office, people were talking again, but this time not about what she did. They were talking about me, about how calm I was, about how fast I seemed to move on. In a world where reactions are currency, my lack of one made everyone uneasy. Lauren tried to reclaim control through small gestures. She brought coffee to meetings she wasn't invited to. She smiled wider, laughed louder, performed harder. But the more she tried, the more it looked like panic dressed as charm. Even Matt kept his distance now, speaking to her only when necessary. I didn't need to ruin him. She did that herself. At lunch, I sat with 2 clients who'd been at the party. They mentioned it casually, testing how I'd respond. I just smiled and said, "Everything happens exactly as it should." They laughed awkwardly, unsure if it was a joke. It wasn't. That afternoon, she finally sent an email, professional tone, short. "Let's discuss next steps for the campaign." I replied, "Already reassigned." No explanation, no emotion. The message landed like a clean blade. I could almost feel her reading it from across the hall. When the day ended, I didn't go home. I booked a room at a hotel downtown, overlooking the skyline. The kind of place where the air smells like new leather and quiet power. From the window, the city lights looked sterile, almost surgical. I ordered a drink, not because I needed it, but because routine still mattered. Later that night, I opened LinkedIn again. Our marital status was still public. It didn't take much, one click, one update. Single. I didn't add context, didn't post a quote, didn't hide behind vague motivation. Just one clean word. By the next morning, it had over 100 silent reactions. People don't comment on endings, they just watch. And in that quiet observation, she began to disappear from the version of my life everyone thought they knew. Friday morning, she showed up at the office early, wearing the version of herself she thought would win me back. Calm, composed, deliberate. Her tone with the team was softer now, her voice missing that edge of superiority it used to carry. But what she didn't realize was that the game was already over. I wasn't her opponent anymore. I wasn't even in the arena. The board meeting began at 10. I presented numbers, strategy, new leadership roles. It all sounded ordinary, but the shift was intentional. I moved her department under another director's supervision. No mention of her name, no confrontation, just paperwork, timing, and silence. That's how power transitions really happen, not through explosions, but through quiet precision. After the meeting, people congratulated me on the restructure. She stood a few feet away, pretending to check her phone, pretending not to listen. I caught her reflection in the glass door. She wasn't angry, just lost. For the first time, she wasn't sure how to play the scene. That afternoon, she followed me into the parking lot. The sun was low, reflecting off my car's hood like a mirror. She said, "You can't just erase me." I looked at her and said, "I didn't." "You did." Then I got in and closed the door. I didn't drive home right away. I sat there, hands on the steering wheel, watching her silhouette shrink in the rearview mirror. I could almost feel the silence swallowing the last pieces of what we used to be. That evening, I went back to the hotel. The same one. Same room. The front desk clerk remembered me, smiled politely. I poured myself a drink and opened my laptop. A new notification flashed, a message from a colleague. "Your post hit the trending feed." I clicked on it. LinkedIn had surfaced my single update to the top of people's timelines. It wasn't viral, but it was visible enough. Lauren would see it. She'd know the world saw it. And that's when it hit me. I hadn't just walked away. I had changed the narrative entirely. Over the weekend, the silence became its own story. People filled it with speculation, assumptions, sympathy. I didn't post anything, didn't respond to messages. I let the quiet speak for me. That's the thing about perception. Once you stop feeding it, people start projecting their own versions. And in every version, she came out looking smaller. Lauren texted Saturday morning. "We need to fix this before Monday." No greeting, no emotion. Just control wrapped in panic. I didn't reply. I spent the day driving with no destination, just the hum of the engine and the steady rhythm of my own breathing. The city looked different now, cleaner, sharper, detached, like it no longer belonged to the life we built together. By nightfall, I parked near the waterfront, ordered a coffee, and watched people pass by. Couples, friends, laughter, all of it distant, muted. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad. It felt like watching someone else's life from behind glass. When I got back to the hotel, I checked Instagram. She'd gone quiet there too. No new posts, no stories. Only the old pictures of her carefully curated perfection. But her follower count had dropped. In our world, that's the digital version of bleeding. Sunday morning, I finally opened her last text. Everyone thinks something happened. Say something, please. I didn't. Instead, I opened my profile and archived everything. The business milestones, the awards, the photos. Just a clean, empty grid. That night, I booked an early flight for Monday. Not to escape, but to reset. A short trip, one of those spontaneous decisions that says more than any explanation. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Before leaving, I stood by the hotel window again, looking out at the city lights flickering over the skyline. For the first time in years, I felt no weight on my chest. No need to win, to prove, to fix. Just stillness. Some endings don't need closure. They just need distance, and enough silence for the other person to finally hear themselves. I flew out Monday morning before sunrise. The city looked weightless from above, as if the entire week had never happened. I didn't check my messages during the flight. I didn't want to know what she was saying or what people were whispering. Distance wasn't just physical, it was psychological, and I intended to keep it that way. When I landed, I rented a car and drove straight to the coast. No plans, no meetings, just movement. The ocean has a way of making noise feel honest. It doesn't try to cover anything. It just is. I sat there for hours, watching the waves crash with mechanical rhythm, wondering how long it would take for her to finally stop performing. By mid-afternoon, I saw her name flash on my phone again. A call this time, not a message. I let it ring until it stopped. Then another call. Then silence. 10 minutes later, a text appeared. "You've made your point. Can we talk?" I stared at it, not with anger, but with curiosity. She still thought this was a point to prove, a battle to win. She hadn't realized that I'd already left the battlefield. Back at the hotel that night, I ordered dinner through room service and played some music on Spotify, something quiet, without lyrics. The kind of sound that fills a room without reminding you of anything. I thought about the first night we met, a marketing event, a room full of people pretending to be more confident than they were. She laughed the same way then, bold and untouchable. I'd mistaken that for charisma. It was always performance. When I finally turned my phone back on, the screen lit up with notifications, missed calls, unread messages, DMs from mutual friends. I didn't open any of them. Instead, I powered it down again and left it face down on the table. Outside, the ocean moved the same way it had hours ago. Nothing dramatic, nothing new, just constant motion, something that never needed attention to exist. And for the first time, neither did I. By Tuesday morning, the world had already filled in the blanks for us. Someone at the agency leaked the news that Lauren had been removed from several projects. No one said why, but people love building stories around silence. I didn't need to defend myself. The absence of my reaction became its own version of power. While she scrambled to control the narrative, I stayed on the coast. I walked the beach every morning, letting the wind erase the last traces of her from my thoughts. There's something about the ocean. It teaches you that erasure isn't destruction. It's renewal. By midweek, she finally sent one last message. "I get it now. You don't have to punish me anymore." I read it 3 times, not because of the words, but because she still didn't understand. I hadn't punished her. I'd simply stopped participating. That was the difference. At night, I sat on the balcony, watching lights shimmer across the water. My Audi was parked below, gleaming under the street lamps, steady, unmoving. It reminded me of who I was before all of this. Focused, composed, certain. I opened my laptop and checked the agency dashboard. Numbers were up. Engagement climbing. Clients happy. The machine was still running without her. Maybe even better. I sent a short message to my team. Keep the momentum. That was it. No need for long speeches. Later that night, I checked her Instagram out of pure curiosity. Her profile looked different now. The photos were still there, but the energy was gone. Captions sounded like someone writing to fill a void, not to express something real. Even her followers seemed to sense it. Fewer likes, fewer comments. I closed the app and stared at the blank screen. It hit me how much of our life had been built for other people's eyes. Every dinner, every trip, every success. She lived for visibility. I had learned to disappear. That's when I realized the quiet wasn't just the ending. It was the evolution. She was unraveling under the weight of attention, and I was becoming invisible by choice. When I finally returned to the city, a week had passed, but it felt like months. The office greeted me with quiet professionalism. People smiled a little too long, trying to read my expression. I gave them nothing to read. Lauren's desk was empty now. HR said she had taken an extended leave, though everyone knew what that meant. Her name still sat on the glass door of her old office, but even that looked temporary, a label waiting to be peeled off. I walked through the halls slowly, taking in the atmosphere I'd built, not with noise, but with structure. For years, I had been the calm center of the storm, keeping everything together while she thrived in chaos. Now, that storm was gone. All that remained was stillness, and for the first time, it felt right. Around noon, I got a text. Unknown number. But I knew who it was. "Can we talk?" Just once. I stared at the message for a long time before locking my phone. There was nothing left to say. She didn't need words. She needed silence to echo back everything she'd ignored. That evening, I drove home. The city lights reflected across the windshield like fragments of the past. At a red light, I caught my own reflection in the window, calm, collected, untouchable. I wasn't the man she had humiliated at that party. I wasn't even the man who introduced her as his ex. I was something else now, someone who no longer needed to be seen to have power. When I pulled into my driveway, I sat there for a moment before getting out. The air was cold, still, and clean. I thought about how everything had started. One laugh, one moment of disrespect. And how it had all ended, not in anger, not in shouting, but in silence. Before going inside, I sent one final update on LinkedIn. A single sentence: some chapters don't end, they evolve. No hashtags, no context, just clarity. Then I turned off my phone, locked the door behind me, and let the quiet fill the room completely. I didn't disappear. I just stopped showing up where I wasn't respected. Been through it. When they crossed a line, and you made sure they felt it.